Hello, 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 hello. Wherever you are on this breathtaking planet called Earth, I hope you are having a bountiful day, evening, or night, wherever you happen to be located. I'm here to talk about our beloved Blender. When I first started using Blender with version 2.76, I was using my beloved Linux operating system. When I was using on my beloved Linux operating system for years and years and years and years and years, I had no difficulty with it. It never crashed, it never hung up, on and on. But I did have trouble when recently, several months ago, I bought a new computer with a NVIDIA card on it. And I had my Ubuntu Studio on it. At first, the distribution of Linux, the distribution of Blender recognized my NVIDIA card, but several months later, my NVIDIA card just vanished and disappeared. And when it disappeared, it started crashing on me. So, basically, when I didn't have a graphic card, Blender ran smoothly on my Linux system. When I got the NVIDIA card in it, hey, it had a little hiccups. But when I fixed it, it's running smoothly again. Recently, I bought a new laptop for my school because we're doing virtual education during this pandemic. So I figured since the schools, most schools, they tie to the chain of using the Windows. So I figured with this laptop I'm buying for my school, because I don't feel like using the Chromebooks that they give us. I used the Chromebook like in 2017. I didn't like it too much because you always have to install an app, do everything. And I couldn't get Blender on it at the time. I don't know if I can get Blender on it now, but 2017, I couldn't get the application that I wanted on the Chromebook. Everything was an app for this, an app for that, and you always have to stay connected to the internet, always. So they turn me off. So instead of using their Chromebook, I just bought me a nice $500 laptop, i5, because it can make my YouTube videos better than the i3. But anyway, several weeks ago, like I said, I got the Windows computer. I installed Blender on it, and already errors, mistakes was popping up. This was the first error that occurred when I would go to edit mode. If I hit 1 to go to point select, 2 to go to add selects, 3 to go to face or side select, and Blender never gave me a hassle. But this what happened when I went to Windows. When I bought the Windows, if I clicked on point select, it would always activate the add select. Windows with Blender will activate 2 modes: the point select and the add select. So that was my first gripe with using Blender on a Windows system. My next gripe, as you probably guess, is the crashing issues. Now, it don't crash when the screen just fly away and disappear. It don't crash like that. I mean a crash when it just stop. When I'm in Blender doing something, it just stopped working, so I cannot do anything vigorous with this Windows install of Blender because it may crash on me. So right now, while I'm in Blender, just like several seconds ago, I was working on something, rigging with IK controls to make a YouTube video about rigging and IK controls. I was working on it, then the screen locked up on me. Let me see if it's still locked up. Let me see if I can find my mouse here while I'm in this car. I'm gonna go to my mouse. I got my mouse in my hand. I'm gonna go. Oh, it's still stuck. It's still stuck. Now, here's the difference. At least with Blender, when it crashed, I'm sorry. At least when I was using my Linux system, when Blender crashed, it just was gone. it was gone. But when it crashed on Windows, the screen is frozen. It's like I have to turn it back off. I have to restart Windows all over again or hit some buttons or whatever. But in Windows, right, I'm looking at it right now. I can move the screen around. I can move the blender screen around. I can resize it and all that. When I just click on that X, nothing is happening. The screen is frozen. It's frozen. So I will give it at least to the Linux distribution of Blender. When I had the NVIDIA card, that was the only time it messed up. And when it messed up, it just zapped, gone. I could live with that because I could restart it again. Here on Windows, you know how Windows go. Let me start Linux. See, you know what it's like on Windows. They're only going to let you have one application at a time. One Blender. With my Linux distribution, if I wanted to start multiple copies of Blender, I could. So that's another fault. The first fault was when I was in edit mode, Windows highlighted the point select and the add select. Both of them. I couldn't, but anyway, it selected both of them. That was the first error. The second error, the screen is frozen. Right now, it's froze. I'm going to have to restart the whole computer again. And the third error, I cannot start multiple copies of Blender. If I keep clicking on this Blender icon, it opens and it minimizes and maximizes that same one. So, nothing against Windows. I'm not knocking Windows. I'm just saying, in my mind, Blender seems to work better on a Linux system. Of course, it's just open source. Blender is open source and Linux is open source. So it don't take no Einstein to guess that when Blender was ported to the PC, more than likely it was ported to the open source software Linux first. Then when it became more and more popular, it became the craze of the 3D community. Then they say, hey, let's make a version for Windows and let's make a version for Mac. So that's my take there, people, on how volatile, how fragile our beloved Blender seems to be on a Windows system. In my humble view, I only got one machine with Windows on it. I don't got 5 or 6 of them. So just with this one sample, to see this is one sample, my one sample with Blender on Windows has not been favorable. No knock to Microsoft. I'm just saying as it is. It seemed like it is more stable on Linux. Now I use it on multiple versions of Linux. I use it on Linux Mint, which is based on Ubuntu, but I use it on Ubuntu Studio, and I use it on Fedora. That's when I didn't have that NVIDIA card. When I didn't have the NVIDIA card, it worked 100% of the times. But like I said earlier, now that I got my NVIDIA card working, I got it solved. It's working like a champ. And then with the NVIDIA card, I know what was causing the issues. I know what was making it crash. Here on this Windows system, I don't know what causing it to crash and be corrupted. I don't know. It just seemed to act up on its own. Maybe I should reinstall another version of it. Download it again. But I doubt that would work. So, if you got some insights into my personal view of how Blender differs on the Windows 10 system and on the multiple Linux distributions, give me a thumbs up. If you ever had Blender on Linux and Windows, tell me how it worked out for you. Does it seem to crash on Windows for you, or is it working perfectly? If you like the content of this channel, please subscribe. Until the next time, Blender family, peace.